Welcome everyone to our YouTube series, Test Prep Made Easy. So in this particular series, we are going to post regularly questions on our YouTube channel. The questions may pertain to CAT preparation, maybe pertaining to GMAT preparation, as well as of various topics which are tested in these particular exams. For example, quants, LRDI, English, and various areas which are tested. And each day we will handle certain number of questions and their video solutions. The best approach is to these questions in these videos. So have a happy preparation ahead and enjoy the video. Thank you.
All right, so these are the questions that we are going to try in today's video. If you have tried it already from the thumbnail, good enough. If you haven't, you can pause the video at this point and try it once before you look into the solutions. We recommend you doing that. But if you just want to enjoy the solution, that's also good enough. And go ahead and watch the solutions now. All right, we have Crembel or something selling two types of chocolates, Milky Bar and cookies. So there are two types of chocolates out here. The prices are given respectively. So these are the prices of Milky Bar and cookies, 8 and 5 grade. A man purchased some of these for a total of rupees 110. So this is the total amount spent. In how many different combination could he have bought the items? So this is a pretty straightforward problem. So let me assume that the number of Milky Bar he bought is M and the number of cookies he bought is C. Please understand, because there is nothing else mentioned, then some of these could be zero as well. He could have not gone for any Milky Bar. He could have bought all cookies in this context. But yeah, I mean, keep that in mind. But yes, they have to be integral, right? I can have a decimal amount spent provided the amounts are also in decimal. So in this case, this is not possible, but I'm just saying. But you can never have a decimal number of items, right? So M and C has to be integer. So keep a note of that. So M and C must be non-negative integers, right? It cannot be negative also, of course. Could be zero, but cannot be negative. So non-negative integers, right? This is what we are looking for. Anyhow, let me just get back to the problem. So Milky Bar, each bar of Milky Bar is costing $8. So this will be the total price, and cookies is costing 5. So this will be the price of the price contributed from cookies. So this will be the total amount spent, and that is equal to 110, right? So always in these kind of problems, what you have to do is you need to find the easiest solution possible, right? So in this case, what I'm saying is 8 is not a factor of 110, but 5 is. So if 5 is a factor of 110, we can say that C is 22 and M is 0. This is very much possible, right? So we can purchase 0 Milky Bars and 22 cookies. Please understand, the question is not saying that the man spent a maximum of 110 bucks. It specifically says that man is spending a total of 110. So this has to be equal to 110. So cookies 22, no Milky Bar is possible. Now, if you understand a very simple idea, I mean, this is something I've detailed in, I have explained this in a lot of variations and everything in our classes. I'll just give a brief so that you understand if you're not aware of these kind of things. See, at this point, so when I put 8 into 0 and 5 into 22, I get a total of 110, right? Now, suppose I reduce this part by 40 and increase this part by 40, then the sum should not change, right? Now, if you imagine it in this way, if I reduce this entire thing by 40, then this 22 will actually reduce by 8. And, this part, I mean, when I'm increasing this entire thing by 40, this 0 will actually increase by 5, isn't it? I mean, if 8 into 0 is increasing by 40, so the 0 thing is increasing by 5 or something, right? So these are the variables, by the way. This is the M and this is the C, isn't it? So that is why I'm pondering on those things. I mean, 8 and 5 I cannot change. That is in the context. I mean, 8 rupees and 5 rupees, that is fixed. But M and C we can play around with, isn't it? Now, what you can observe is this 5 is the change here and the 8 is the change here, right? So effectively, I can always change this number by this, and correspondingly, this number will always change by this, right? So this is what we are going to do. So let us reduce this by 8, so that becomes 14, and then correspondingly, this will increase by 5. This becomes 5. 14 I can further reduce by 8, so this becomes 6. 5 I can always increase by 5 now, so that becomes 10. Now the problem is I cannot reduce the 6 anymore by 8, right? Because if I have to reduce, I have to reduce by 8. So if I reduce by 8, then this becomes -2. How can you purchase -2 number of cookies? So that is not possible. They have to be non-negative as well, right? So effectively, this is the idea that persists when we are looking for integral solutions and all. We have discussed the reasoning behind it and a lot of variations on it in our classes. I'm not going to that much deep, but I hope that this was understandable now. So effectively, there are 3 different ways he could have made the purchases. So in how many different combinations could he have bought the items? So the answer to this problem will be 3. Had the question said that uh, the man purchased some of each type of item instead of saying just some of these, then the answer would have been 2 different ways. You have to ignore the 0, 22 solution. When it says some of each of the items, then it automatically means that he's purchasing some Milky Bar as well as some cookies. So in that case, the answer would have been 2 different combinations. But yeah, anyhow, that's all I had to add for this problem. Don't get confused by the way. Sorry. Just finishing off with one last thing. Even if the question would have said man purchase some of each type of item, see, understand one thing, that starting with the 0, 22 solution is still the fastest, right? It's very easy to do. I mean, you just put C as 22 because 110 is a multiple of 5. So 5 into 22 is 110, right? So start with the 0, 22 solution, and then figure out the rest of it. Just ignore the 0, 22 solution in the last go. I mean, when you calculate this at the end, just ignore that. There are also, I mean, this is an AP series. I mean, this thing, both are AP thing. So using those AP ideas, you can actually calculate the number of different solutions very quickly. You don't have to brute force count it every time, but I'm not going into that much details. It is covered in our classes and all. But yeah, the basic idea I hope is understandable from this particular question. And thank you for joining in. Hopefully everything was understood. All right. We have a question on time and work. It seems like it. Anju can paint a certain wall in 30 minutes and Sanju can do it in 50 minutes. Anju starts painting the wall after 5 minutes. Sanju joins her after a few more minutes. Manju, okay, so this is a third person. This Manju out here joins them and they together finish the remaining work. Great. If Manju has done 1/5 of the total work, then find the approximate time taken to complete the work. Okay, so when I'm reading this problem, see, this is the mistake that typically people start doing. I mean, once you know how to start with, I mean, you take a total units for work and everything. Don't just straightforward do that. I mean, just hold on for a minute or something and try to figure out whatever has been mentioned. That structuring thing should happen in your mind. So let me help you elaborate this. I'm not writing anything, just listen to my voice properly. So Anju can paint a certain one in whatever time, Sanju can do it in whatever time. So when I'm reading that statement, I know that, okay, Anju's total time for completing the work is given, Sanju's total time of completing the work is given. What is given, how much is it, I don't care. I know that the total time is given. Anju starts painting the wall. After 5 minutes, Anju joins her. Great. So initially, Anju is working for 5 minutes and then Sanju is joining her. So now both of them are working. And after a few more minutes, Manju is joining them. So I don't know how much time later Manju joins them. And now 3 of them are working to finish the remaining work. Great. Now it specifically tells us that Manju has completed 1/5. So that's 20% of the total work, right? So Manju has completed 1/5 of the total work. Then find the approximate time taken to complete the total work. So what you need to understand is from the last bit, so the last information. So there is an information in the last statement as well. If Manju has done 1/5 of the total work, that is an information, right? So what I know from this is that whatever is the total work, Manju has completed 1/5 of it. So effectively, what I know is Anju and Sanju, I think that were the two other people, right? Yeah. So Anju and Sanju has completed 4/5 of the entire work, isn't it? So they did not complete the total work in this manner. They just completed 4/5 of the total work. So now I have a structure in my mind. So yeah. So again, I know. Let me just write these things down. So Anju can complete the total work in 30 minutes, and Sanju can complete the total work in 50 minutes. Now, let me assume the total work out here to be a multiple of both 30 and 50. So ideally, I mean, 150 should work. I'm also keeping in mind that 4/5 thing. So yeah, 150 is a multiple of 5 as well. So I don't have to worry about it. So let me take the 150 as the total work, right? So what about the efficiencies? So now what you know is Anju has an efficiency of 5, let's say units or something. So total work being whatever units. So 5 units per minute. This is the efficiency of Anju. This is the rate at which she works. And Sanju is working with an efficiency of 3 units per minute, right? He can complete the 150 units of work in 50 minutes. So 3 units per minute. Now, how were they working? So there are a couple of things here. Number one is that Anju and Sanju is actually completing 4/5 of the total work. They don't do the total work, right? So they are actually completing 120 units. But how are they working? So first, Anju is working for 5 minutes, right? If you go back to the question, that is what it says. Anju starts, and after 5 minutes, Anju joins her. So Anju is working for 5 minutes. So how much work has she completed by that time? So that is 5 into 5 and 25 units, right? So this is completed by Anju alone, isn't it? Now, if you think about Anju and Sanju, so we know that Anju and Sanju has completed 120 units together, right? Except Manju, because Manju is completing 30 units. So we are not concerned about that because the question is looking for approximate time taken to complete the total work. So I don't care about Manju at all. She's just completing 1/5 of the work, she or he, whatever. Anju and Sanju together should have completed the difference of these two, because together we know they have completed 120 units, out of which Anju initially completed 25 units alone. So Anju and Sanju should have completed 120 minus 25, which is 95 units of work when they were working together or something, right? Now, what is the question looking for? The question is looking for find the approximate time taken to complete the total work. So it's not after Anju has completed the 5 minutes. So this 5 minutes will also be accounted for. And when Anju and Sanju are working together, they are contributing or completing 8 units of work every minute, right? So this should lead to a time of 95 divided by 8, which is approximately 12, isn't it? See, we are looking for approximate time. So I'm just quickly going into the approximation. So 96 by 8 is exactly 12, and this is almost that, right? So 95 by 8 should be approximately 12 minutes. You had an initial 5 minutes, so that's a total of 17 minutes. What you need to understand is Manju's time is not a concern here, because Manju has joined them in between those 12 minutes sometime. We don't care when it is. It's just that we are not at all concerned with the efficiency of Manju, because the question has already told us that Manju has completed 1/5 of the total work. And the later calculation, whatever we have done, is on the remaining 4/5 of the work. So our main focus should be Anju and Sanju here. Forget about Manju. That is not a concern for this particular problem. So you have Anju working for 5 minutes, and then Anju and Sanju completing in 12 minutes. And in between, Manju has come and worked with them and finished the 1/5 of the work. Not a concern for us. So approximately 17 minutes. We can figure out exactly as well. But yeah, less to calculate because approximation is asked for. Anyhow, that's all for this question. Hopefully everything was understood. Thank you. All right. Only because this question is asking for sum of real roots is something I have to now concern myself to find the roots. I have discussed these ideas earlier also in some of the previous solutions, not maybe in this episode or maybe earlier. In this case, if you see that once I'm just trying to factorize this entire thing. I can definitely take a x common. That should be a no-brainer. So we have something like this. Now this is a biquadratic, isn't it? I mean, it's a quadratic on x square. So hopefully you guys have practiced a bit on it. So you can see that this is a product of 36 and a sum of 13. So I can say, I can factorize it as 4 and 9, right? So if you try to factorize this, you get something like x square minus 4 and x square minus 9, right? So that should be the end result. Now, rest of it is pretty straightforward. I think I don't have to explain anymore, but let me go ahead and do that. So what are the real roots? So one is obviously x equal to 0. This is possible. See, when x square is minus 4, if x square is minus or x square minus 4 is 0, so x square is equal to 4. In that case, x is equal to plus minus 2, right? Or you can further factorize this as x plus 2 and x minus 2, whichever way is comfortable for you. I'm just doing this directly. So there are two more roots, plus minus 2, and same thing here as well, right? I mean, this can also be factorized as x plus 3, x minus 3, and you'll get two more roots, which is plus minus 3. So effectively, these are the real roots, and we're looking for the sum of the real roots. So sum of the real roots will be 0, right? Because when you add all of this, so 0 is there, no issues. But when you add the 2 and the minus 2, this will cancel off. And again, when you add the 3 and the minus 3, this will also cancel off. So sum of the roots should be 0. That is not given, so none of these should be the answer here. Pretty straightforward question, nothing to explain on this. Just factorize this as simply as possible. The x taken common should be, visible. If you miss that out, then obviously you're spending too much of time. And just don't divide everything by x. So in this case, you will not face that issue. You'll still get the right answer, even if you cancel out the x by mistake. So the roots you will obtain is plus minus 2 and plus minus 3, which is adding up to 0 again. But if the question had been find the number of real roots, then you might get a wrong answer. So in this case, there are 5 real roots, which are adding up to 0. That's the entire problem. I don't have anything else to add to it. If you have any troubles understanding it or anything related to this, any questions that you have related to these kind of problems, you can share those thoughts in the comment section. We'll take it up. Thank you. All right, so we have an average problem. The average score in an examination taken by 52 students. So the exam is taken by 52 students and the average is 85, right? So this is the average score in an examination. If the scores of the top 5 performers are not considered, the average score of the student falls by 2. So if we ignore the top 5 performer, the top 5 performers are not considered, then the average score of the students falls by 2. So it becomes 83, right? But yeah, I mean, these kind of ideas, I find it almost every year in CAT, you'll have a problem similar to this. This is specifically for CAT, I'm saying. Other exams also have ideas based on this particular, questions based on this particular idea. But yeah, very, very similar to this idea. I've seen almost every year in CAT. I don't know. I mean, it's a very similar kind of problem you will find in CAT 2020 as well. If none of the top performers scored below 84 and if each of them had distinct integral scores, find the maximum possible score. Oh, great. So first, let me work on the initial information. Then I'll come to this last sentence. I'll explain it to you. How to go ahead with it. It should be self-explanatory, but I'll explain that nevertheless. So first thing what we know is there are 52 students. So I'm going to use deviations that will be faster to calculate with. Total will be a little lengthy to calculate with. So I'm going to consider deviation technique. So 52 students, they are having an average of 85. Now what we know is the top 5 performers. So if the top 5 performers, let's say this is the these are the top 5 performers. Let me leave that as of now. Are not considered. So if I consider the other 47 people, then the average score falls by 2. So effectively what it means is the average score becomes 83, isn't it? So I don't need to do that, by the way, but I just wrote it so that you understand this a bit properly. Now the idea of average is if the 47 people has an average of 83, so what I can consider is each of these individuals, has 83. I mean, although they might not, but that is the idea of average. So I can actually consider that everybody has a score of 83. That is not going to disturb the total, right? So what are the deviations that we have from this 85? That is a grand average. So we have -2 for each and every person, isn't it? So we have an offset of -2 for each of these people. So we get a net offset of 94, right? Now, the idea of average is if I calculate deviation of each and every number from the grand average, the total deviation should come out to be 0. So if this section is giving us a net deviation of -94, this particular 5 people should give us a net deviation of +94. That should happen. So this picture you should be able to understand straight away. Now let us get into the last statement. So what does it say? If none of the top performers scored below 84, and if each of them had distinct integral scores, find the maximum possible score of the topper. So put it in this way. So first, I'll come back to this section in a while, but let me just indicate these 5 blanks to think about the topper or something. These are the top 5 performers. Okay. Now there are few things that are given. I'll come back to that, but what is the objective? We are trying to maximize the score of the topper, right? So let's say this is the topper. So if I have to maximize this, in turn, I should try to minimize these 4 people, right? You need to understand this. Whatever be the score of these 5 people individually, the total will remain constant. You can understand this is a very simple idea. I mean, the total here is constant, the total here is constant, so the difference is the total here. So obviously the total is constant, right? So if the total is constant of these 5 individuals, in order to maximize one of these, I need to minimize the other 4, right? So the other 4 has to be minimized. So what are the constraints out here? It says that none of the top performers scored below 84. So 84 is the minimum that I can take, number 1. And if each of them had distinct integral scores, so they have to be distinct also. So I cannot place 84 for each of them, right? So that cannot be done. So what I can do is I can place 84 for one, I can place 85 for the other, 86 for the other, and 87 for the other, right? This is something I can do because they're integral score as well as distinct scores, none of which is less than 84. So let's do this. So let us assume that these are the scores. In this case, this will automatically maximize. And now, since you have done it with deviation, let's continue that. So what I'm doing is I'm considering that these 4 scores are 84, 85, 86, and 87. Hopefully this is visible. Or let me just write this a bit properly. So we have 84, 85, 86, and 87. This is the 5th one, and this is our focal point. I'll come to that in the last thing. And let me calculate the deviation again from the grand average, always from the grand average. So these numbers have deviations of -1, 0, +1, and +2, right? So if you see that these 3 are anyhow canceling to 0, so we have a net deviation of +2. But out of these 5 numbers, we should have a total deviation of +94. So this number alone should give us a deviation of 92, right? So we should have a deviation of 92 from this 5th number alone. And again, the deviation is always from the grand average. So this number should be 85. A deviation of +92 from 85. So that is 85 plus 92. So effectively 177. You can do this with the total that will give you the answer, but it will be a little calculative. I mean, more calculative than this as well. Whenever you're dealing with deviations, you're dealing with smaller numbers to calculate with. When you're dealing with totals, it's bigger numbers to calculate with. But if this was a little tricky to understand, so what you could have alternatively done is figured out the total 52 into 85 and 47 into 83, taken the difference, that leaves the 5 other people total. And then, you allocate the 84, 85, 86, 87 for the other 4. That idea has to be understood. And then, subtracted it from the total of the 5 people to get the same answer, 177. But you can check it out yourself. That will be a longer process to do. So, longer in terms of calculation, sorry. So yeah, that's all I had to explain related to this question. Please understand the offset technique, the deviation technique, however you want to call it. This is always very fast and very less calculative, so automatically it takes less amount of time and more accurate as well. Less chances of making calculation errors. So try this idea. I think we have some videos in the YouTube related to the basic idea of offset or deviation technique in our channel. I'll leave the links of the appropriate things. But yeah, in our courses, also in the preparatory module, you can take them as a trial because this is anyhow part of basics only. Anything that is part of basics is free trial. So you can just go ahead and take the trial for free. I'll leave the link of the course as well in the description below. You can simply check our website. So yeah, that's all for this question. Hopefully everything was understood. Thank you.
Hopefully you liked the solutions we provided for these questions. And if you did like it, do not forget to like the video and share, subscribe, and comment. Do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon. In that case, you'll get notification as soon as we upload a new video. And if you want to check a bouquet of courses that we provide, so we have a huge variant of courses from customizability to full preparation. You can check our website, www.mathoratory.com. I'll leave the link in the description below. And have an enjoyable preparation ahead. Welcome to the Math Oratory family and have a good exam ahead.